my name is Kemi Nekvapil. That's Nekvapil, and I just spell it because most people can't. So it's Kemi Nekvapil, and I am a speaker, presenter and coach, but I'm also a raw food presenter and chef. I am a long-distance runner. I'm the mother of 2 children. I'm also a wife. I am an organic gardener. I also love flowers. I like to pick them and steal them from other people's gardens when they're not looking, and I like to buy them too because that balances out the thieving of the flowers. My working week never looks the same, but it does have structure to it. So I learned from a fantastic coach, a man I'm sure many of your listeners will know, Jack Canfield. And I learned from him this idea of having preparation days and successful days. So my Mondays are my preparation days. And then I have my successful days on Tuesday. Wednesday's a preparation day. And then Thursday is a successful day. So it's basically on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm really at home at the computer and preparing to make sure that I have really creative days. So then Tuesdays and Thursdays are normally my highly creative days. And then Fridays are my days of inspiration, which is another word for not doing anything much, except for whatever it is that I want to do. I think when you have a creative business, it's very, very important to take time out, because unless we're inspired, it's really hard for us to inspire others. And unless we're looking into the world and seeing what's happening and seeing what touches us and what moves us, it's really hard to then bring that back into a viable product or a viable idea that can then be shared with others. We just stay stagnant and we just keep churning out the same thing again and again and again, and we're not inspired, and then no one else around us is inspired either. So I think it's highly important for creative people to take time out and to do it unapologetically, which is part of my business, The Raw Beauty Queen, is that especially women, that we take time out, we don't apologise, we know that we deserve it, and we concentrate time and energy in keeping our cups full. So that when we're giving, it's inherent for women to want to give to others. So for most women, that is something that we have. But if we're giving and we're empty, then we get angry, we have resentment. There's lots of other things that come with it. When your cup is full, you can give with generosity and with joy and with a real sense of contribution. The thing that upsets me about what women are struggling with is the weight thing. And I call it the weight thing because I think it is women's time on the planet right now. And we have so much to contribute. And yet so many women are focused on the 5 kilos they have to lose. And so much money and energy and time is spent on trying to lose that 5 kilos. And this whole idea of on Monday, I'm going to not eat anything I've ever eaten before on Monday. And it will all be different on Monday. That annoys me. And I think, that if women could really spend the time to get in touch with who they are and what they have to contribute, because we have so much to give, and actually the world doesn't care if we are 5 kilos overweight. And I'm not talking about women that actually medically need to go on a diet. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this multi-billion-dollar industry that is fueled by women feeling really bad about themselves, and it makes me very angry. Look, I think the influences around us are very big. I think, some people say, well, it's what men want. We know that's actually not true. Men are very happy with how most women are. I think that women, we can perpetuate it within each other. And I think it's another thing that women can do, that, we don't actually raise each other high enough. We are very easy to cut each other down. And I say killing each other with our words. And also for the individual, it's a way of self-sabotaging. If you are so scared of bringing whatever it is you have to bring to the world, a way of shielding what you actually have to give and overcoming your own things around sharing that is to focus on whether or not you're going to eat the lollipop. It takes your energy somewhere else, and you don't actually have to take your art out of the bottom drawer and actually display it to the world, because you're not going to do that until you've lost 3 kilos. And this is a thing I think that saddens me. And one thing part of the Raw Beauty Queen community is that there is no such thing as perfect, number one. And if you're waiting to be perfect to share your gift with the world, you're never, ever, ever going to share it, ever. I'm really conscious of who I listen to. So I don't really listen to the news that much. I don't read the paper that much. I'm not inspired by hearing about the sorts of news that we're sold. And so I listen to a lot of inspirational speakers. I read inspirational stories. I read biographies and that sort of thing. I also go to the kitchen to be inspired, because that is one of my biggest passions. I trained as a baker and a chef. So I feel completely free and highly creative and inspired. Sometimes it can take me 2 hours to prepare a lunch, for instance. And the other place I think I go is my garden. When I'm in my garden, I feel more beautiful than I do, I think, nearly any other time. And also when I'm with my children, they inspire me because they push me to learn things about myself that I don't necessarily want to know. But they also inspire me because of their freedom and their creativity. And children don't fail. They just realise it didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. So then they just try again. And I think if adults could take that on more often, we would do things with what we have to give that we don't even know we could do. If we just had this idea that failure doesn't exist, actually there are just outcomes that maybe aren't favourable, and then we just try again and we try again and we try again. Or we decide, I'm not committed to doing that actually. That's why it failed, or that's why I didn't get the outcome, because my heart wasn't in it. I did it because I felt I should. And this is the thing about creative people. If we do things because we think we should, it's not going to turn out. It's not going to turn out. If I'm doing a recipe and it's because I think, people need to have this recipe from me, it doesn't come from me, it just doesn't turn out very well. So I think it's always worth looking at why am I doing what I'm doing? Who is it for? And making your commitment to yourself and to others in getting really clear on why you're doing what you're doing. I think people suffering from depression or anxiety, I think that it's so much more prevalent now than it has been. I'm not a clinical, medical scientist or anything like that, so I can't answer from that space. But from the work that I do with people around food and raw food and starting with food, it is very powerful what we put into our bodies. And I always say that if we put junk into our bodies, we feel junky. And if we put life into our bodies, we feel lively. Once we start to feel lively, we start to get clearer. Once we're clear, we start to make different choices. And once we start to make different choices, who we see ourselves in the world becomes very different. So I think as well, there's just a lot of unfulfillment on the planet. And I think so many people are doing things they feel they should. I think should is one of the most disempowering words there is. So many people are doing what they feel they should do for security or because of other people's opinions. One of the most powerful things that a woman can do, and it's a journey, and it took me a long time to get there, and I have my days like anyone else, is to get to the point where you actually don't care what anyone else thinks. Because it's when you get to that point that you actually become free and you can start to do what you want to do. And what I have found is that as soon as we let go of what we think other people think, the person you step into is actually the person that other people wanted you to be anyway. So we spend this life trying to hide ourselves, to try and, manipulate ourselves to be the person that we think people want us to be. And actually what people want us to be is exactly who we are, because it gives them permission to be 100% who they are too. Yeah, so I think that we can stand in who we are if we're fueling ourselves correctly. I do what I do because I absolutely love it. I feel blessed that I have found my purpose and my passion on this planet. I cannot see myself doing anything different than what I do. And that involves so much, though. I can't say that's one thing. So that includes creating programs that I know changes women's lives. It includes doing my classes, my raw food classes, where I get to really inspire people, the power of food and that it can taste great. I'm not into health. I'm not into health food. People think I'm into health food. I'm not. I'm into food that tastes great, that also gives you amazing energy and makes you feel good about yourself. That's also part of speaking. I love speaking. I love presenting. And I love creating community. When women come together, it's so powerful. I love being part of that. I love being able to create the space, especially with the Raw Beauty Retreat, where women can come together and everyone, literally, as soon as they register for that retreat, they're basically saying, I commit to only raising women higher for this week, for this amount of time. And what happens in that space is extraordinary. I started off as a baker at 16. So it's been a journey to get to where I am now. And everything that's involved in my work, if I don't like it, someone else is doing it, because I'm really clear that unless I'm doing what I'm passionate about, there's no point. So I try to find people that are passionate about the things that I'm not passionate about or that I'm not committed to learning about, so that I can then step up and do the things that I love to do, that I know makes the difference. I wish, not just me, I wish that all children were told it is more important to do what you love than it is to do what you think people want you to do. And there are so many people. There's an extraordinary movie that I've watched so many times recently, Finding Joe, which I highly recommend. And this idea of following your bliss, and an example of Mick Fleetwood, who just wanted to play drums. He didn't go off to be an accountant or be a banker. He just wanted to play drums, and now he's Mick Fleetwood. I think there's such extraordinary stories, and so many people are so fearful to really step into and embrace what it is they want to do. And I love this idea that when I met my husband, he was writing this book called Love and Fear, and was asking everyone that he met, are your actions from love or from fear, over a day, to just write down. And I actually think so many of our actions come from fear. And when we actually start to look at if I was in love with myself or in love with my, if I was in love with that person or loving that person, what action would I take? And it's normally very different. If you want to go to France to study 19th century curtain rings, then you do that from love. But you actually decide, it's probably best if I work in a bank, then that comes from fear. And I just recommend that anyone who wants to go to France to study 19th century curtain rings does that. And to trust that when you are doing great things and when you're passionate, that energies and the universe and so many things align. And don't be surprised if you're walking down the street and suddenly you bump into a professor of 19th century curtain rings, because that's how magic works. Money. I have had such a journey with money. I grew up very much with this idea that there was never enough. And then I was living with people where money was kind of evil. Anyone that had money, anyone that wanted money was evil. And one of the biggest things I did for my business and setting up my business from the beginning was to really look at what my money stories were. And I think we all have them. And it's normally things around exactly that, that money is evil. People that have money are evil, or if they have money, they got it because they did evil things, or they don't deserve it. And it's interesting, I hear people take other people's money away from them in their words. He probably doesn't deserve that. I know how they got that or whatever, which is just ridiculous. You should always admire the things that it is that you want and, see it as inspiration as opposed to turning it into something yucky. So I think the biggest thing that I've done for my business is to change my money mindset. And I don't see money as evil. I see it as an energy like anything else. I see it as something that we need to have in this world. I think it is really important for creative people to get paid their value. And I know people struggle with working out what their value is. But once you've worked out what your value is, it's really important that you charge it. And for me, money gives me choice and choice gives me freedom. 2 books that I have read recently that will change the entrepreneur, especially the female entrepreneur. 2 things. 1, Naomi Wolf, The Beauty Myth. In fact, every single woman should read that book. One of her quotes is, "The woman that dies the thinnest with the least wrinkles wins." And I think that is real, statement for the modern day and what I shared earlier about where women are. And the other book is Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book about businesses that are really clear on why they're doing what they're doing. And you focus on why you're doing what you're doing as opposed to what. The what comes after the why. And it's the why that will have you going through the hard times and the roller coasters and the ups and downs to get really, really clear on your why. And my why is to empower women to love themselves. And I'm really clear about that. So when I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, which isn't often because I eat raw food, which makes me jump out of bed in the morning, but when things are tough, because business, it's the fastest learning curve. It's big personal development learning curve to start your own business. And now I have 2. So it's to really remember why I do what I do. And as soon as I remember why I do what I do, that's it. It's all over. I'm at it. People can hear more about me through kemisrawkitchen.com.au. That's my raw food site. That's where my classes are based. It's kind of the home of my food empire. And from the Raw Beauty Queen, then people can find me at rawbeautyqueen.com. And there they can sign up and they will receive a time for you guide, which is 24 hours to put yourself first without apology and without guilt. And then I send out weekly nourishment nuggets for women to feel empowered and loved and nourished.